narrow range of premium hands, folding frequently even in spots where other players might take a chance. Nits are known for their caution and reluctance to bluff, sticking almost exclusively to hands like high pocket pairs and strong Broadway combinations. Because of this, nits become highly predictable. Once an opponent realizes a player only enters pots with monster hands, it becomes easy to fold to their aggression and steal blinds when they show no interest in a pot. While a knight's tight style can grind out small profits in soft games, it severely limits their upside against more skilled or aggressive players. The loose passive player. A loose passive player plays far too many hands before the flop, but rarely bets or raises once they're in a pot, relying almost entirely on calling to see where the hand goes. This combination of looseness and passivity means they enter pots with weak holdings, but never apply real pressure once they're in them. Loose passive players tend to drift through hands, hoping to improve rather than forcing decisions on their opponents, making them easy to play around but harder to bluff once they have already committed chips. The calling station. A calling station is a specific type of loose passive player who frequently calls bets but rarely raises and almost never folds, regardless of how strong their hand actually is. These players chase questionable draws all the way to the river, hoping for a strong card that often never comes. Because calling stations call so liberally, bluffing against them is largely pointless since no amount of pressure will get them to fold. However, they can be extremely profitable to play against with strong value hands, since they pay off bets they shouldn't be calling. The tight aggressive player. A tight aggressive player, often shortened to tag, plays a narrow, selective range of hands but plays them aggressively once they're in a pot, betting and raising rather than calling passively. This style is widely considered the classic winning approach for beginners and solid regulars, since it balances discipline with the ability to apply real pressure. Tags avoid marginal spots, preferring to wait for situations where they have a clear edge rather than gambling in unclear ones. The mid-reg. A mid-reg is a regular player who understands solid poker fundamentals, but isn't elite. Mid-regs typically play a tight, aggressive style similar to a tag, but with more experience reading table dynamics and adjusting on the fly, tightening up against loose players and loosening up against tight ones. Mid-regs avoid risky plays unless the expected value is clearly positive, making them efficient, profitable players who are difficult to exploit without a clear edge, even if they aren't quite at the top of the game. The loose aggressive player. A loose aggressive player, often shortened to LAG, plays a wide range of hands and plays them aggressively, betting and raising far more often than a tight player would. Lags don't wait around for premium hands like aces or kings, instead getting involved with hands that have strong drawing potential or simply enough equity to apply pressure. Because they raise far more often than they call or check, lags put consistent pressure on opponents who fold too easily, which is exactly what allows their bluffs to succeed. Their unpredictability makes them difficult to play against, and the best way to counter them is by identifying spots where they're likely over-bluffing or pushing too hard with a weaker holding. And if you're recognizing some of these player types from your own table, go ahead and subscribe, because the next few types are where things get extreme. The maniac. The maniac takes a loose aggressive play to the extreme, betting and raising constantly with a wide range of hands regardless of strength or position. This creates a huge amount of action and pressure, which can be intimidating to play against. However, maniacs are often easier to exploit than they appear. Because maniacs bluff too often and overplay weak hands, patient players can profit by tightening up, letting them build the pot, and calling down or raising with strong hands. The fish. A fish is an inexperienced or weak player who makes frequent strategic mistakes, often without realizing it. This term gets used constantly at the poker table, usually to describe someone who plays too many hands, misjudges hand strength, or doesn't understand basic concepts like position and pot odds. Fish aren't necessarily passive or aggressive in any consistent way. They're simply unfamiliar with the fundamentals, which makes them unpredictable but ultimately exploitable by anyone paying attention. The whale. A whale is a loose, often wealthy or high-action recreational player who gambles big and loses big, creating massive profit opportunities for everyone else at the table. Unlike a typical fish, a whale is defined as much by the size of their bankroll and willingness to play big pots as by their skill level. Tables with a whale at them tend to attract stronger players quickly, since the potential winnings from one player can outweigh the difficulty of beating everyone else combined. The shark. A shark is a strong, predatory player who actively hunts for weaker players and adjusts their strategy to exploit specific opponents, rather than playing one fixed style. Sharks study tendencies, target the fish and whales at the table, and tighten up against tougher competition to avoid unnecessary risk. Their ability to switch gears based on who they're playing against is what separates them from a standard tag or mid-reg, since a shark's entire approach is built around finding and attacking the weakest link at the table. The end boss. An end boss is an elite, highly successful player who consistently makes positive expected value decisions across a wide range of situations. These players have a deep understanding of game theory optimal strategy, allowing them to balance unpredictability with consistent long-term profit regardless of how their opponents play. End bosses are also skilled at table selection, choosing games where their edge is largest rather than playing every available seat. Because of this combination of skill, balance, and selectivity, end bosses are extremely difficult to exploit, with very few weaknesses for opponents to attack. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe.